Am I the asshole for embarrassing my Bill's new wife in front of everyone? For context, it was not my intention, but it was absolutely how it played out. My brother-in-law, husband's brother, was away for college for 4 years and ended up eloping with a woman he had known for 7 months. None of us knew her, not that it mattered. But we just met her for the first time back a few months ago. She seemed pleasant, a bit shy, which is to be expected, and a bit rough around the edges, no big deal at all, but just like fidgety, darting her head and looking behind her shoulder like someone was standing there when no one was. We found out a short few weeks later that she has bipolar, unmedicated, so her behaviors absolutely made sense. I'm an RN, as well as a social worker, and I also have bipolar, but I'm medicated. On Saturday, Mill invited the whole family down for dinner, and brother-in-law and his new wife, Hannah, show up, and we got to chatting at the dinner table about her diagnosis. She brought it up, not me, but she knew I knew about it, so it started as small talk, I believe. Well, it didn't take long for her to dive deep into this conversation. Using her arms and hands to talk, getting a bit loud. No problems, the family is loud, so she fits right in. But then she became angry, over nothing. Started saying stuff like, "It absolutely fucking repulses me that people without bipolar try claiming they are manic when mania is strictly a bipolar thing." I wasn't rude by any means, but I did correct her, quietly, and said, "Actually, mania comes in all forms and is not limited to bipolar disorders. Even people with brain tumors have been known to have manic episodes." She immediately said I was wrong. That her doctor told her that it was strictly a bipolar thing, etc. So I just stood firm and said, "He's wrong," and even pulled up my medical ebook to show her the paragraph that speaks on mania and everything that can cause an episode. She refused to read it, so I just turned to my husband, who wasn't paying attention to us, and said, "Honey, you're a doctor. What causes manic episodes?" He starts listing off multiple things, including manic depressive episodes, seasonal affective disorder, postpartum psychosis, or schizoaffective disorder. Well, Hannah was pissed. She immediately said that we were just trying to one-up her and that she knew what she was talking about. My husband immediately said, "Obviously not if you're going to sit here, argue and gatekeep symptoms of illnesses against 2 medical professionals." He then turned and walked off, leaving us at the table with both Bills, Sil and Mill looking on. Hannah then starts crying, saying I embarrassed her on purpose for no good reason other than my pride, and stormed out of the room after screaming for everyone to stop staring at her. Brother-in-law is telling me I should have just shut my mouth and storms after her. I'm really confused if I'm the asshole here. ETA. Making an ad to include some key points here. I was quiet throughout this entire conversation. I was speaking so no one else could hear, which is exactly why my husband, who was sitting directly beside me, has no idea what we were talking about until I brought him into the conversation. She did not appear to be in any sort of episode when the conversation began. Other than the first initial spew of how it repulses her, she calmed down immediately afterwards, and only slowly showed how manic she was after raising her voice at my husband for simply stating what can cause a manic episode that does not include bipolar. I was having what I thought was an academically correct conversation with an individual as small talk, mentioned in my post. She was the one who became loud and belligerent. No one at that table had any clue what me and Hannah were even talking about until Hannah started screaming at me over the table. It is my job as both a social worker and an RN to educate individuals whom are uneducated on their illness. So yes, that probably played a part. It's more dangerous to be uneducated than it is to be educated, and to be blunt, her doctor giving her false information to begin with is troubling in itself. Not the asshole. I hate it when I'm having what I think is a strictly academic discussion with someone, and they start to take it all personally. Not the asshole. Hannah's diagnosis does not give her a license to rearrange reality as she sees fit, and she brought up the topic in the first place. Not the asshole. She embarrassed herself by doubling down. Sounds like you gave her plenty of opportunities to retract her statement. Not the asshole. She embarrassed herself. Your husband is absolutely right, she's gatekeeping her illness. I'm not sure where you should proceed from here, but going forward I would probably go LC. If her whole family is with her on this, it'll constantly be brought up that this argument happened. I'd save myself the headache. Am I the asshole for feeding my daughter onions? My ex likes to tell me what I should and shouldn't do on my custody days, and I generally ignore her, because there is a reason we divorced. She has a list of food she doesn't want our daughter to eat, and I don't pay attention to her list. I drop our daughter off at school Monday mornings, and her mother picks her up. She called me yesterday to say she was cleaning our daughter's lunchbox and found onion slivers and asked if any of the lunch I packed her had onions. I said yes, it did. She said that onions were on her list. I said I didn't care. She said onions make our daughter smell bad when she sweats and kids will bully her. I said that at my house our daughter showers, and she might try that at her house as well. She called me a spiteful prick and told me no more onions. Our daughter likes onions, so I'm going to ignore her. A part of me does wonder if I was petty though. It pisses me off when she tells me what to do, so maybe that is clouding my judgment. Info. How old is your daughter? You were 100% being petty, but it sounds so far like it was in the best way possible. I certainly chuckled. Not the asshole. If the onions really cause her to smell bad, she would have known without finding the slivers. Not the asshole. It's one thing if onions give her an allergic, bad reaction, but it's completely different if she just doesn't want her to smell bad after eating them. From the title I assumed you were forcing onions on a kid who doesn't like them. If she likes onions and you are including a food she likes in her lunchbox, you are not the asshole. Am I the asshole for telling my daughter I don't like how she treats my husband? I am a mom of 3. My oldest daughter Gracie is from my first marriage. She's just turned 17. I have Milo 10 and Lyric 7 with my current husband. My ex-husband and I separated days after Gracie's first birthday because he told me he wanted to see other women and wanted me to wait for him. I did not and I filed for divorce. He always remained part of Gracie's life, but he made it clear he only wanted me when it suited him. After the divorce I met my current husband. Gracie was 4 before she was introduced to him. Her dad was angry when I found someone else. He hated my husband and Gracie always knew it. I went through the courts when my ex would not stop badmouthing my husband to Gracie and did not leave her out of the adult issues we were having. The courts were not helpful at all and sent us to co-parenting classes. Gracie was hesitant with my husband. She adored her dad and didn't want him to feel hurt. This is something she told a therapist when she was young. Then when she was 8 her dad died and it feels like ever since then there was no way my husband could be anything to her. We never expected him to be her dad. But to be someone she trusts and cares about. Gracie holds him at arm's length and doesn't treat him like a member of her family. She doesn't include him like she does extended family. An example was last March. She was spotlighted in her art club. She sent a group chat message to me, both sets of grandparents and her uncles and aunts, but did not include my husband. I mentioned it to my husband when I got home and she'd made it home before me and still hadn't told him. I brought it up to her and she said he wasn't on the need-to-know list for her. It hurts my husband and I have tried to facilitate their relationship to be more, but I don't think it was enough. A couple of days ago Gracie was saying she needed help with some engineering questions and she wanted to go over to my BILs, sister's husband, brother's house to ask him some questions. I asked her why she had to go to all that trouble when my husband could have answered the questions for her. She said it made more sense to her to ask her uncle's brother. This is when I told her I don't like how she does that, how she treats my husband like he's not there, like he's not part of the family. I told her we never ever asked her to replace her dad or to consider them the same, but she excludes him and keeps him out and he has only ever been kind to her. I told her it's something I would like her to work on. She got mad and told me I chose to marry him, she didn't choose to have him in her life. She also said it wasn't my business what their relationship is like. I told her I'm her mom and I love her, and I'm his wife and I love him and I just want them to get along. She's still angry at me and I'm trying to figure out if I did the wrong thing here. Am I the asshole? I'll say nah. I think you and Gracie are both coming from genuine emotional places. Neither of you said anything trying to hurt the other. It's very natural for you to want her to have a good relationship with your husband. It's also pretty natural for her, given her life story as you present it, to not feel that close to him. And while it would certainly be very nice if she did put in more effort with him, I don't think it should be required of her. Not the asshole for what you said to her. Sadly, your ex may have completely poisoned Gracie's mind when she was very young, to where she's turned into this hateful teen towards your husband. I don't know if there's ever going to be recovery from this. And shame on the courts as well. I'm sorry you're having to be stuck in the middle on this. I'd say your now deceased ex is the true awe. Am I the asshole for putting a bag of dog poop in a stranger's trash can? I have a lovely 2-year golden retriever. She is full of energy, so she gets a lot of walks. I try to be a responsible dog owner. I always pick up her poo, even if it is nowhere near other people's homes. My wife and I brought the dog along to visit friends in an East Coast Florida barrier island, beach community. Nice, quaint, nothing fancy. We walked the dog, and naturally, the dog pooped. My wife had a bag, and picked up the poop. We walked on. About 4-5 houses down, there was a large, standard community-issued, garbage can at the edge of the road. The lid was half up, as it was quite full and ready for pickup. My wife deposited the tied-closed bag o' poo into the can. A man mowing his lawn at the house next door, it was not his trash can, went off. He ran over and yelled at my wife, "You're disgusting. You can't do that. Why would you put your dog's waste," his term, in someone else's can? She said, "It is a garbage can. People put nasty things in garbage cans. That's what they're for." He harassed her until she took it out. Is my wife, am I, the asshole here for putting a tied bag of poop in a stranger's street-side garbage can? You are the asshole. I personally hate people putting their rubbish in my bin, especially dog poop. Edited to add, we have a dog and we take her poops home to our own bin. Soft, you are the asshole. I have a dog too, so I get it. I don't want to carry around his poop longer than I need to. It's fine to throw their poop in public dumpsters and trash cans. It's rude to throw it away in someone's personal bin. You and I signed up for dealing with dog poop, but our neighbors didn't. They shouldn't have to deal with it on their property. Edit. Thank you kind strangers for the awards. My most upvoted comment is about dog poop.